Welcome, everybody. I would like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Selene Kumin Vega, who will be guiding us today in movement for spiritual connection. We will be recording this session, so please keep yourself on mute during the presentation, and the recording will be posted for all. Thank you, Dr. Vega, for being here.
Mhm. Well, if you could start that PowerPoint, maybe we'll start with that and with a mindfulness moment. Give us all a chance to settle ourselves into being here together. So, as we so often do in our mindfulness moment times, let's just start with settling ourselves in right where we are. You might take a look around, see where you are in your space. Feel into what you're sitting on or standing on, or however you are situated. What part of you is connecting to the ground underneath you, through furniture, through your feet. Just feeling where the ceiling or the sky is above you, what's around you. And if you're comfortable, to let your eyes close, do a soft focus, and bring your attention to just what's there right now. And I invite you to notice your breathing, to notice this process of breathing that was going on already. But now we're noticing that we're breathing. And I want to also bring attention to the fact that even in the most still way we can bring ourselves into, that breath is movement. There is movement going on in our bodies all the time, as long as we're alive. Just noticing that movement. And perhaps there's sound around you. Perhaps just the sound of your own body as you breathe, as things move inside of you. Just tracking in your own way the movement that is part of being alive in a body on this earth. And as we settle in and you're comfortable to come back to the visual realm, you can open your eyes and see this slide. We're going to talk about and then do some practices for movement for spiritual connection here. And in putting together how I was going to organize what I'm presenting, it's been a very interesting process because although I have it here in a linear fashion, it's not really a linear process of even thinking about or doing this work. But we may touch on things and come back again and again to them. But I do have a PowerPoint here to organize those thoughts, to give us a little bit of a framework. So let's move on to the next slide here. Just a little bit of an agenda. We started with our mindful moment. I'm going to talk a little bit about spirituality, because if we're talking about spiritual connection, we do need to define our terms a little bit. And then we'll talk about movement from several different angles. One being sacred dance, which has been part of how people connect to spirituality over millennium, probably. We've been doing it for a long time, human beings have. And there's certainly plenty of it going on now in our current contemporary times. But we'll look at some of that. We'll talk about embodying spiritual connection in general. What does that mean? To connect within, to connect together with each other, to connect to the transpersonal, whatever is beyond our own individual selves. And we'll talk some about embodying principles of spiritual connection and actually moving energy in the body as part of that. And there are a couple of different ways of doing that we'll talk about. Not that these are the only ones, but they're just ones that people are more familiar with. We'll talk about Tai Chi and Qigong and yoga. And we'll talk some about connecting to the transpersonal through movement in a couple of different ways. Again, there are many ways to do that, but we'll talk about a few. And all along here, I have a couple of different experiments and practices we can play with. And then at the end, maybe a longer one, depending on how much time we have. Let's move on to the next slide. So, yeah, what is spirituality? I mean, everybody's got their own individual meaning for it. I love this particular graphic because it has lots of different words that people often associate with spirituality. Um, Great spirit, letting go, not knowing, higher power, essence, true self, the source. Really, there's a lot on here. One of the things that's on here is the body mind. I like that one because it speaks very much to what we're talking about today. But just take a moment here and feel into your body when you think of the word spirituality. What do you feel? Do you feel anything in your body? Perhaps something in your heart, perhaps something in your entire body. Maybe it feels like you can sense some energy field that goes beyond just the physical edges of your body. Many different ways that you might connect with that that word spirituality, that concept of spirituality. Next slide, please. So I have some definitions because this being an evidence-based university that we're coming from and program, I like to go to the literature. So there are certainly some researchers and those who've been talking about spirituality in the literature, the academic literature. They've done some work on coming up with some definitions here. And I like these: sense of felt connection, the public domain concept that grounds the capacity to make meaning and to live meaningful lives, the place one can make connections to the inner life, the other, the natural world, the numinous, but most of all to ourselves. This is a large definition, but it's important that what's emphasized here is the ability to connect. Spirituality is concerned with being deeply alive and present to how growth manifests in our lives. And that is from Snober, who's writing in the article that I'm citing here. She's writing about movement and how spirituality connects to movement. And one more: spirituality is a journey to the truth, a connection with something beyond ourselves and to something within ourselves. And Zafirudi is also talking about movement in that article. So they're coming from spirituality from the point of view of what it means. And then what do we mean when we talk about it in terms of movement, in terms of perhaps dance, but really movement in the body. Next slide, please. So one distinction that gets made, and I think it's an important distinction, although there's an overlap, is between spirituality and religion. And some might say that spirituality concerns our relationship with the transcendent, our sense that being human is more than just our existence in a material form. and that religion organizes spiritual practices and beliefs and behaviors, gives us a way to have a structure to work with those things together, not just alone. One uh, slightly longer description that I like here is spirituality differs in many ways from religiosity or religiousness. The former, spirituality, emphasizes the personal character of spiritual transcendence in terms of the changing, developing, and dynamic attribute one has from cradle to grave, whereas the latter, religion, is considered in terms of more of an institutionalized character of religious beliefs. So, in this paper that Counted et al. Wrote in 2018, we refer to the relational spirituality as the former, as an important platform for personal development that draws people to forge meaning in life through spiritual transcendence. So, lots more. We could spend the entire time here just talking about spirituality and religion, but let's move on to the next slide. I have yet another quote here, this one from David Lukoff. Both religion and spirituality involve a sense of meaning and purpose in life. They provide a source of love, first time we've gotten that word in there, and relatedness, and they help keep believers in relationship to the known and the unknown and unknowable. So it's a way to approach those. And again, coming back to what movement can do, it's a way to do that. Moving to the next slide, please. So this is from Anna Halpern, who's been quite a pioneer in the dance world, moving from dance into how do we connect in ways that are way beyond performance art of dance. And she said, this was in a workshop that she taught, actually, cited by Iris Stewart in a wonderful book called Sacred Woman, Sacred Dance. She said, our bodies can teach us that we've been totally alienated from the true wisdom of our bodies in our culture, as well as the wisdom of the larger body, which is nature itself. My interest in dance, she said, is to connect with the innate intelligence within our bodies and what our bodies have to say to us. Our bodies contain all the wisdom of the ages, wisdom that goes back before we were even born. And that wisdom is in our cellular system, it's in our nervous system, it's in our circulatory system, it's in each breath that we breathe. We are a long evolutionary process. So when we find ways to begin to connect with what our bodies can teach us, we're connecting with all of that. Moving on to the next slide, please. So the three ways of connecting that I've been thinking about and talking about since I first started working with movement early in my life as a way to do more than just perform and entertain and create art are three. And one of them is connecting within. As Anna Halpern just said, our bodies can teach us a lot. And the way to get to that learning, that wisdom, is to connect within. So let's just do a little experiment here of connecting within. I invite you all to just collapse here, to let your head drop down, shoulders maybe round, chest sink in, just letting yourself go into a little bit of a collapse wherever you are. Notice how that affects your breathing, maybe making it a little bit shallower, a little harder. Notice how it makes you feel when you're collapsed like this. Maybe there are some quieting elements to it, but it tends to take us very inward. Sometimes can take us into a sadness, into some of the challenges. It can feel very disconnected from the world outside. But we're taking the time to connect in with that feeling of collapse a little bit here. Now I invite you to begin to lengthen your spine from the very bottom up, as if you could lift each base of your spine, each vertebra up on top of the next, and create some space all the way up to shoulders. Perhaps they can widen, drop away from ears, and neck can lengthen, head can lift, as if something was lifting you up from above, from the heavens above, from the sky, from the stars, from the sun. Whatever is above, to lengthen you, lift you, open you, expand you. And again, I invite you to notice how that affects your breathing. Maybe there's a little more room to breathe here. If your eyes had closed, perhaps they could open here. Just take in what's around you. And perhaps as you're taking in what's around you, you might let your head shift just a little bit around so that you can see around you. A little bit of movement there to allow you to take in visually with other senses this environment that you're in. Maybe play a little bit with your body in that environment. Maybe tilt a little bit to one side and the other. Maybe twist a little bit if that feels comfortable to you. Maybe stretch your arms out a little bit. Reach into the space around you, or reach around and hug yourself. Just seeing what your body might like to do right now. Perhaps a shift in the hips, a little gentle movement in the spine. Maybe your toes want to wiggle, your ankles to flex. Just playing around with movement here to see what happens when you bring that invitation to your body to be alive, to be as alive as it is, and for your awareness to really inhabit that body that you're in. So maybe you can, if you feel called to, put a word or two in the chat of anything that came to you while you were moving there, or just note those things to yourself, perhaps a word that might come or a phrase of what happens when you take the time to just be awake in your body. Okay, moving on to the next slide here. So we just started from just a general idea of movement and awakening the body. But there are other things that might inspire us as we begin to connect within. How do we connect with the body? It's just an idea when we say those words, but what might inspire some movement of some sort if you didn't have to worry about what it looked like or what people thought, and just allowed your body to reflect something that's going on inside of your mind? So you might even think about experiences that changed your life, what it was like to be in those experiences, what was happening in your body in those moments. Maybe an enlivening, maybe a vibration, who knows? Maybe you remember touching or being touched in physical or non-physical ways by those around you. What gives you peace or comfort, strength or courage, joy or gratefulness? Just letting those concepts, those ideas reverberate in your body and see how your body reflects those. Maybe remembering peak moments, moments of intuition, maybe dreams. Sometimes in courses that I've taught with where we're exploring movement and how we can connect within through it, we might take a dream that one of the group has, and all of us embody that dream. It may be their dream, but we can all be part of it, and it might awaken things in ourselves to even embody someone else's dream. Maybe a time when you felt deeply and fully alive. And where were you? And what did you feel there? Was there something in your skin, perhaps up on a mountaintop with wind going by, or perhaps the feel of the grass under your feet, or who knows, so many times that we could feel deeply and fully alive, and all that we experienced in our bodies in those times, and how that can bring us back to that sense of what it was like in that moment. What brings you closer to your center, your essential self, your spiritual being, your sense of being home, being connected? What can you work with in your body that gets you there? And again, when I say movement, I don't necessarily mean wild, crazy movement, although it can certainly be that. It can be very, very subtle movement, just a simple in breath, just a simple ah. So I have a question here, and I am going to take it because it's from someone who I definitely trust. It's from my mother. Can we unmute my Janice Kumin here? Is that possible? Maybe not yet. All right, we will come back to you, I promise. Next slide. Let's move to the next slide. So connecting within and then connecting together, because a lot of spiritual experiences often do come with times of connecting together. It's part of why people come to church. It's a way for us to come together and connect to something that feels very spiritual. It gives us a sense of belonging. It gives us a sense of being seen, often, of being part of something bigger than our individual selves. Being a part of moving together with others can be incredibly powerful. This particular picture is from a workshop that I have taught many years in a row. And this is just one of those moments when the whole group came together with movement to feel that sense of what happens when we do that, when we bring ourselves together. It doesn't always have to be touching, although we were, but just being together, moving together, being aware of ourselves and bodies together can be a very, very powerful experience. Next slide, please. And here we come to the part that we might ordinarily think of as spiritual, where we're connecting with the transpersonal. And what I mean by that is whatever is beyond our individual ego self. So even that connecting within can lead us into connecting with something that's beyond what's just in ourselves. Sometimes that's the doorway. But whatever way that we can use movement to connect with the transpersonal, that's a very important part of movement for spiritual connection. So moving to the next slide. How do we do that? One way is through sacred dance, through prayer dance. And that's certainly something that's gone on over, as I say, the millennia. But these particular pictures are actually from a dance group that I was part of back in the 1970s, Fairmont Center in Ohio, where a group of our dancers went to a church um, and did prayer dance there. They were doing it more as performance, but it's a performance of sacred dance that everyone watching could be part of, could feel that prayer, could connect to that prayer that was being felt so deeply by the dancers, with the choir behind them singing and creating music for them to dance this prayer to. Certainly, people can also dance alone, to do a prayer dance that is prayer that is not just words in their head or words spoken aloud, but an entire body experience of um, dedicating oneself to something beyond, to the transpersonal. Sometimes it's an illustration of a story or a prayer from sacred texts as performance, or participation of everyone there. Sometimes it's just an individual process of praying through movement. Next slide, please. So There's been sacred dance in many, many cultures, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of them, although I've got some wonderful pictures from different places. These are from the Philippines, from Bhutan, from Java. Next slide, please. Here's some from India, three um, different kinds of connections. The ones on the left are from a dance. I think this was probably Bharatanatyam, although there are several different sacred dance forms in India. The ones on the right are a totally different form. I was in India in 1996 as part of a research group. One of the researcher was actually from the village that we were here to see, but this is part of a ceremonial performance of the Dandanata, which is an event that goes on for days and days and includes all night performance ritual of dance that expresses stories from their sacred texts. And then the one on the bottom is also, I think, is also from Bharatanatyam, another one. Many, many different parts of India and different ways of working with dance there. Next slide, please. These are Native American. And again, of course, Native American is such a big category, and there are so many different groups throughout the US and other places in the Americas where dance is an important part of that sacred connection. But these here are two from the Paiute tribe in Las Vegas. The one on the left is an Azteca dance, and something that was part of a demonstration in a park setting to show some of the dances of that culture. And next slide, please. This one is just a short piece, if we can get it to play. So very different than performing a story, but that movement that they are doing is a connection to the transpersonal and to it is a spiritual connection and it is sacred dance. And this one in particular from Turkey. Next slide, please. So this here we're talking about the dances of universal peace, which is a more modern understanding of sacred dance. This is something that was developed by Sufi teacher and Zen master Murshid Samuel Lewis, who's no longer with us, but back in the 1960s, he put scriptures and sacred words from many different spiritual traditions all over the world to music and developed easy dances, simple movements that groups could do together to sing, to dance these dances together, to draw on those phrases, to really connect to a living experience of unity and peace and integration. And this taste of our true nature as universal peace opens the possibility of a deep spiritual revolution within each person, but also has that sense of coming together to dance. And I'm going to play this because I just think it's so deeply moving. It's a few minutes worth, and it includes, I want to say before we even start, it includes the words of, it includes some visuals of Murshid Samuel Lewis, who was influenced by Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn, who were dancers who were very connected to dance as a spiritual connection. And he was influenced by them, and the words at the beginning are spoken by Ruth St. Denis. So please play this little clip here.
Those who have ever moved in the rhythm of inward joy must dance now. Let us not wait for the world to be better. Let us help to make it better.
Weekends in a garage in the Mission District of San Francisco, the dances of universal peace have spread far and wide, touching the lives of many people. The work and vision of one man has spread around the world. His name was Murshid Samuel L. Lewis, and he had a plan for world peace: to eat, dance, and pray together.
Okay. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, there we go. So this, if you go to the web page for Dances of Universal Peace, each one of these the little pictures takes you to a photo album of people in that place doing these dances. It's very much all over the world, and how amazing we can eat and dance and pray together. Next slide, please. So, talking about movement as embodying spiritual connection. I love this quote from Snowbird. Dance vibrates out of the soul as a pulse of life, asking to take form, both in lamenting and exalting, questioning and probing, asking and receiving, stomping and contracting, releasing and swaying. Dance is a vehicle for expressing the depths of humanity. And let's just take a moment to do a little bit of play with this, to embody a little bit of spiritual connection here with a very simple movement. If you're willing to try it with me, let's just start by arms reaching out to receive. Maybe you can find a way for your arms to reach out to the universe, to reach out whatever divinity or whatever transpersonal understandings and realities you have a connection to. Letting your hands, your arms be out there as antenna to receive, to really open to what might be there, to come to you, to receive that in. And then take your arms, and I invite you to bring that into your heart. Perhaps bring your hands to your heart. Perhaps another way to bring them into your body. And feel yourself receiving. Feel your body taking that in. And one more time, opening to receive, breathing that in, and then bringing it in into your being. Now let's try going the other way from your heart. I invite you to feel the fullness that's there in your heart, whatever level of fullness you're experiencing in this moment. Feel it filling, and perhaps with your hands there or some other way to really feel yourself filling up and ready to send out some of your love, some of your wishes for peace, whatever you have to offer to the world from your heart. To open now with your hands from your own body and send it out into the world. Perhaps your hands do something different in this movement of sending it out into the world. And again, coming back to the fullness that's in you, to whatever it is that you have to offer, whatever small or large you have in you to offer, and sending it out again, sending it out to the world, to the universe, to all who might need it. So letting your body come back down to a comfortable place. And just pondering the difference in those two movements that might look maybe somewhat similar, and yet we could feel them in very different ways as we embodied that spiritual connection that we might have, both the receiving and the giving, with our bodies as a channel for that movement. Next slide, please. So moving on to how we might embody the principles of spiritual connection and at the same time be moving energy through us in ways that might help us to feel it. So we're not just thinking about the principles here, we're actually experiencing something. And that is what Qigong and Tai Chi are often um, all about. So I have a couple of different pictures here. You'll notice the one on the lower right is our Saybrook students back in 2013. Um, this was our coming together to do the face-to-face part of the movement course in our mind body medicine program. We were all learning Tai Chi there out on the lawn of wherever we were having our residential conference. But Tai Chi is another thing, and Qigong that are both done in many parts of the world now, although they started certainly in the East. Um, but many people are doing them and experiencing the benefits from them. These are all outdoors, but people can do it indoors as well. Next slide, please. And yoga is another one that has been making its way around the world. And often people come to yoga as a fitness practice. That may be how it was presented to them. Perhaps someone said, oh, you should take yoga, it would be good for your health. But often when people begin to experience it, something else happens because yoga comes from an entire spiritual tradition. And the doing of the asanas that are often what we're presented with as what yoga is, those asanas are really there as just a beginning process of preparing our body for meditation, preparing it for other ways of having spiritual connection. But just the doing of it can begin to open to that spiritual connection. So, next slide, please. One, now moving to dance as a way to connect. And just the doing of the dance itself becomes that channel to connect with something that's beyond. I have, when I went looking for what's going on in ecstatic dance all over the world, it is going on all over the world. And it really is a way of people coming together with music that moves them and allowing their bodies to do what they do. And some people who do it are fabulous dancers with lots of training. And some people who do it are just your ordinary person who's never had any dance training at all, but feels a call to be moved by the music and to be moved by um, the spirit that enters them in that dance. And I want to point out here that that lower picture is our own Dr. Leah Taylor, who's one of our mind body medicine students who did her dissertation about some of this process that's going on. She's created something called Embodied Groove, where she goes to some of the music festivals that go on sometimes for days, and people go, and often there's a lot of dancing there, but sometimes people don't don't they need a little bit of guidance to really connect with their body in a deeper way. And Dr. Taylor has developed some ways to really help people to focus in on that, to get them moving, to get them in the rhythm of the dance music that's going on so that they can really feel that in a deeper way and get to experience it as a deeper spiritual connection. Um, let's see, moving on to the next slide here. Again, when I went looking for ecstatic dance at the page for ecstatic dance out there in the world, there were zillions. These were just a few. I didn't capture all of them, just the ones that could fit on one of my slides here. Each one of these is from another country, from another place, where some kind of an ecstatic dance process is going on. And someone who's interested can go to this website, find something that's going on near them, and go. In my neighborhood here in Santa Cruz, California, there are several different venues for this, but one of them is Dance Church. And there are people who've been meeting every Sunday to come together and dance together because for them that is their prayer. And they come together for the spiritual connection that ecstatic dance can be. And with that sense of coming together as community and caring about each other as they come together. You're not just praying their dance at home alone. You're coming together as community to do that. So one more slide here to talk about presence, because that is really what we're bringing ourselves into, to open to the spiritual connection that movement can be. And we think sometimes about presence as if it was just stillness, but it certainly can be stillness, and that stillness can open into and move in and out of movement as well. I think of presence as openness to the full range of human experience. And how do we open ourselves? Here we are, we live in bodies, we are inhabiting bodies here. Maybe we might think of ourselves as spirit inhabiting a body. And to be fully in presence is to engage from that place, to have an attitude of humility to what lies beyond our rational comprehension and control, to what lies beyond the instruments of, as Lyson, whose quote this is, beyond the instruments of the positivistic scientist, to open to the mysterious. And that is what I see presence as, and certainly the presence that we would bring to a movement process. So let's see. I want to just quickly go through the two slides there after this, just to show you that they're there. One is our references, and the next one is our art credits, because I used some lovely art here, and it was all permitted art. And let's come out of the PowerPoint now. I want to just leave a little bit of room for a few questions, and then we can end with a little bit of a practice of the screen here with the appropriate thing that has to happen to get music to be shared. Okay. Okay, there we go. So from right where you are, you don't have to change anything, but you're welcome to stand or lie down or just stay right where you are to start from. And let's begin with the breath. I invite you to once again tune into your breath and how it is already moving in your body. And maybe you might want to play around with that a little bit. Maybe deepen your breath, maybe breathe down into your belly. Might even put your hands on your belly if that helps you to feel your breath coming down into your belly. Or maybe you can feel that breath expanding your lungs. We often think about the breath expanding the lungs into the front, but our lungs are in our entire chest. They can expand to the sides. They can expand to the back. And as you're breathing, I invite you to begin to play around with that whole area of your torso with your breath. And perhaps as you expand to one side, your whole body might shift in that direction. And then maybe to the other direction. Maybe circling yourself around as you breathe. Perhaps your shoulders might want to lift or circle around. Maybe your spine wants to somehow be involved in the movement that your breath is beginning. This is really just an invitation for your body to find what would feel good right now in this moment. And any thoughts or images that I'm bringing in are just possibilities, because this is really about you and your body and perhaps the music. But it can be helpful sometimes to think about a particular part of your body that's drawing its attention to you. Maybe an elbow. It might be moving you through space. Maybe a leg that reaches its way out. Maybe feet that circle around. Maybe a knee that comes in and opens up again. Whatever your body would like to do, letting the music move inside of you, perhaps touching into that heart that received a little bit earlier, that gave. Perhaps that giving and receiving is something that you might revisit in this moment. See which of those two is needed right now. Perhaps going back and forth. Perhaps feeling where you are in your environment. Perhaps sending your energy out through fingertips or some other part of you to the people you love, feeling that connection that you have with them. Perhaps opening to the connection that you have to what goes beyond your individual self, opens you up to something bigger, wider, more expansive, something that your small self connects to, that it's part of, that it's touched by, whatever words or ways of thinking about that connection are the ones that are meaningful for you. Whatever your body is capable of, letting go of the need for it to be doing anything other than what it's doing right now. Your movements are enough, whatever, to connect, to be part of this larger movement. This movement that we're doing here together, this process that's come together, and that may be touching someone watching this, that we can connect with them in the future, connect with those who moved, advanced their spiritual connection through all the ages, in whatever ways they did. And then slowly bringing ourselves back into center. We can keep as much of that spiritual connection going as we want to, as we move into the next parts of our day. Maybe take a little bit of that with us, or save it for later to come back to again and again. Just breathing into what it feels like now. I want to thank you all for joining me on this adventure and journey into really just scratching the surface of what movement for spiritual connection can be. And we'll finish up our time together on this recording. I will stay around to talk to anybody who wants to share more and be together a little bit. So if you could end our